Jewish Channel's Week in Review. The U.S. pulls out of a UN conference in protest over Israel's treatment. The newest U.S. senator gives her take on Israel. Members of Congress face off with President Obama over a Saudi-connected intelligence official. And an historic conference with Jewish women from all denominations. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. The Obama administration has reportedly decided to pull out of what's being called Durban II, a UN conference on racism that many allege is anti-Israel. The conference is a sequel to one held in 2001 that Jewish news agency the JTA recently reported as having devolved into an anti-Jewish free-for-all. The JTA was first to report the Obama administration's decision, citing advisors Samantha Power, James Warlick, and Jennifer Simon. The newest U.S. Senator, Kirsten Gillibrand, made her first presentation to the Jewish community this week. Christian Needon has the story.
14 members of Congress and both New York senators spoke to a packed crowd of more than 400 at the Jewish Community Relations Council's 30th annual congressional breakfast. Clearly, Israel was the main area of focus, and the recent Gaza invasion received much attention.
And the silliness and the nonsense of the discussion that Israel has no right to protect itself or to strike back disproportionately is a bunch of hogwash.
It's a line that Senator Charles Schumer called a, quote, double standard.
It strengthened this evil double standard which we live with and frustrates us day by day because of the oil wealth in the Arab world and in the Middle East.
Schumer's message on oil was repeated by others.
Let our friends in the Middle East know that we don't intend to be dependent on the amount of oil that you have to determine who our friends are.
That includes the Saudis, which are still exporting millions and millions of dollars funding terrorism or hobbyism around the world. That includes the Egyptians that are still not doing what they need to do to close those tunnels getting into Gaza. That includes just about every nation in the world who wants to be a true friend of the United States has to be an ally in trying to find peace in the Middle East as well.
And some were willing to point a finger at the biggest focus of U.S. foreign policy concern, Iran.
Hamas, Hezbollah are puppets of Iran, and that's clear.
The event was also an opportunity for the newest member of the Senate, the recently appointed Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, to make her first statements to the Jewish community.
In addition to Hamas, Hezbollah remains poised with thousands of rockets to Israel's north, and Iran continues to direct its support to these terrorist groups with its brazen quest for dangerous nuclear weapons. I view these as threats not only to Israel, but to the United States as well. Just as I stood up in January in solidarity with Israel, you will always be able to count on me to support Israel's right to defend herself in the face of these many threats.
In other congressional news, Democrat Steve Israel, who was also at the breakfast, became the first member of Congress to criticize the Obama administration for its appointment of Charles Freeman to chair the National Intelligence Council. Freeman's appointment has been opposed by nearly all Jewish groups who've spoken up on the topic, particularly for his ties to Saudi Arabia, as well as his allegedly anti-Israel views. Joining Israel in criticizing the administration thus far are at least 10 Republican members of Congress. In religion news, a groundbreaking gathering of Jewish women from across the denominational spectrum took place this week to tackle the topic of Jewish women's prayer. Rebecca Honig-Friedman reports.
Prayer quilting, a sing-along with Jewish music guru Debbie Friedman, and academic lectures by the Jewish community's most influential female scholars. It's all part of the first ever Interdenominational Conference on Jewish Women's Prayer.
For years, women were excluded from Jewish public ritual life. But here at the Heschel School, hundreds of women from all denominations of Judaism have come together to reclaim the rich heritage of Jewish women's prayer.
Prayer is such a personal, difficult, challenging thing, and usually we deal with it in the confines of our own communities, our own shuls. And the fact that people are willing to go on a limb and to discuss prayer in the context of a larger community is very inspiring.
Why the focus specifically on women's prayer? Conservative Rabbi Deborah Cantor, who attended a traditional Orthodox synagogue as a child, explained why boys and men often have the advantage when it comes to prayer.
You know, these little pipsqueaks who get invited up to lead Anim Zmirot, for instance, at the end of the, service from a very, very young age, so that by the time they come of age, this is their place. They have a sense of a proprietary sense about it. They have a sense of this is their home.
But the conference's lead organizer, Dr. Ann Lapidus-Lerner, a pioneer in the field of Jewish women's studies, hopes that this event will encourage Jewish women to empower themselves through prayer.
To get people involved in learning about the history of personal prayer in Judaism, particularly insofar as women participated in it, to learn more about it and to have people bring prayer more strongly and more centrally and more mindfully into their own lives.
A second goal of the conference was to encourage women from different denominations to engage in dialogue with each other. Dr. Eliza Lavie, editor of a new book on Jewish women's prayer that was the inspiration for the conference, explained why this interdenominational aspect is essential.
After many, many years, this is the first time that Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, women from different organizations sit together and sharing information, knowledge, inspiration, trying to learn together and please God that it will be continued.
Lilith magazine editor and conference organizer Susan Weidman-Schneider says interdenominational dialogue is something for which women may be particularly well suited.
One of the things that I'm very, very struck by when we're looking at women is that it's never really the Lions versus the Christians. There isn't the same sense of turf guarding that we've seen over the years when there are denominations of male thinkers, scholars coming together.
And when it comes to discussing prayer specifically, Blue Greenberg, the founder of JOFA, the Jewish Orthodox Feminist Alliance, was quite pleased with how the discussion went.
Prayer is something that often divides the community, and this was a case where prayer united the community. So I hope to see more of that.
That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel, please visit newsdesk.tjctv.com. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable, IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, and Verizon Fios Channel 900. For more information, visit tjctv.com.